so proudly we hail, at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Yes.
Not too sure what exactly I'm going to talk about. This isn't my normal forte. I'm not really a speaker or anything. I'm just a doer. When I was asked by David to speak here about government regulations and how has it affected my business, it was short notice for me because I'm about as small as you can get. You know, I'm basically a one-man operation. I have aspirations to expand, and I've been putting forth the necessary footwork to do so. However, with the uncertainty of where our country's going and regulations coming down the pipeline and the state of our economy, I have to be real hesitant. I don't know if anybody foresaw a bunch of this stuff coming, but I did many years ago. I never really considered myself into, I don't want to use the term politically active, or even more aware of all these things that are coming on. You know, I was just like having a hard enough time just doing what's in front of me, trying to run a business, trying to make a living, and pay my bills just like everybody else. I'd like to save for the future, but unfortunately, the way things are right now, that's kind of a little difficult to do. So, what to really talk about is the obvious one that happened April 22nd, 2 years ago. And that's when the EPA passed what is called the RRP rule, or short, the lead renovator, let me get the exact thing down. Lead renovation, repair, and painting program. And it's all disguised or under disguise of health and safety. You know, I'm adamant about health and safety. You know, I've always, every project I've ever did, I've always went out of my way to put up dust barriers and to clean up and to make sure that the environment of whatever job that I was working in was okay, and especially if they had kids and stuff, you know, make sure the tools and stuff were put away and all that other stuff. Well, they had to come up with a bunch of rules and regulations for the lead scare. Now, there's legitimate things for lead. You know, there are some legitimate concerns. However, I believe that they made a mountain out of a molehill because it's been proven that kids still get lead poison just from drinking water out of bottles. Okay? It is. Now, what does that do for me? Well, the economy's already been hit. People are cash strapped. And us people who want to be legitimate companies, you know, we comply. We have to go take this 8-hour exam. It costs $300, $400, whatever. I was already at one time lead paint. What do you call it? Yeah, I was already certified as an abatement, so I only had to pay half the $300. But still, I'm a one-man operation here. in order for me to fully comply, not only was I supposed to be certified, but I had to certify my firm too, my business. That was another $400. Right, right. Now, what does it do to a job? It applies to any house that's built prior to 1978. It's assumed that it has lead-based paint. It's a reasonable assumption. However, they made it a rule to where it covers such a small area that it affects just about every single person in the construction industry. Electricians, painters, siders, house remodelers, everybody.
Good question. Do you think that the way that the regulations were constructed, that it was an effort to push this type of work, which is basically becomes everything that you do for a living, to union from companies?
To larger firms, I wholeheartedly believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that. It seems like if it's not big government, it's to push towards big corporations. The bottom line, squish the little man.
So to follow up to that, then, okay, like you're in this marketplace, and there are people there are companies that you're typically bidding against for most frequent kinds of jobs. How many of those people or companies didn't go through the process that you did, and they're basically out of certain types of work altogether? Do you have a feel for that at this point?
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
I really couldn't honestly answer that. I do have a person working on some statistics for me for another thing that I'm kind of putting together that perhaps they would have an idea. This is what I know from my experience, okay? Because of the housing burst, a lot of people got laid off. These people that did new construction housing, and each one of these individuals. Not to say that they're all incapable, but there's a fine line. In fact, there's not a fine line. There's a big line between a general carpenter and a remodeler. There is a line between a true remodeler and a handyman. A handyman cannot do everything a remodeler can, but a remodeler can do everything a handyman can.
I have a question. I have heard, and you can maybe confirm this, that those lead abatement practices that you have to engage in order to work on a house prior to 1978 would include things like putting a tarp on the ground underneath your ladder, which it goes against OSHA regulations, which say you can't put a tarp underneath a ladder. Is that not true, that you have conflicting regulations like that?
It's not just a tarp. Okay, it's actually plastic. Minimum 6 mil thick.
Gee. And yet that would be against OSHA regulations.
Right, that makes things slippery.
So, so you have to decide which agency to go against or to comply with.
Right. And let me fill in with some other things, okay? Most of the projects that will require us to practice these things, in my experience, in my last 2 years of bidding, have all been Section 8. These were houses that investors pick up and they rent out Section 8. And we get these people in there that I don't mean to be degrading or everything, but there seems to be a trend where they look for whatever excuse they can to try to make a quick buck. You know how much liability is increased as me as a remodeler? Not only do I have to ensure that I comply with all these rules and regulations, which just last January 11th, last year, about 6 or 7 little changes has happened, and this represents those 6 or 7 little changes. The basic bottom line, the liability that is increased per job, okay, some argue it's 15, some argue it's 25%, I argue it's 35%. I got hard numbers to prove that. Not just the time, but the extra expense, the extra overhead, the extra liability. I'm waiting for the insurance companies to catch up and start raising our rates for liability. I'm waiting for all these, and I've heard of one, but I'm waiting for some of these jobs to be done, that if we don't document every little thing, take pictures, that we comply, take pictures that we had this blocked off, take pictures that the sign was up, take pictures of the SWAT of before and after, then one of these people thinking they're going to make a quick buck and try to throw a lawsuit on us, to sue us saying that we didn't comply. And then not to mention all the records and everything that we have to maintain and uphold. I'm a small one-time guy. I do everything. I'm a bookkeeper. I'm an accountant, which I'm finally starting to relinquish some of that. I'm not married. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have nobody helping me. I can't get my cats to do anything either.
You need a government study on why those cats aren't helping you.
Herding cats. Does anybody have any questions right now for Shawn? Sir.
Yeah, what does that add to the cost of the average job?
The average job?
Yeah, as a consumer, that's all I want to know. What is it going to cost me extra?
Well, say if the labor was probably $2,500, we're talking about a small little project, okay? Yeah, about 35% on that. So it's going to jump. It's going to jump about 37. Holy cow.
Okay, I got 3 more questions. This young lady here, then Frank, and then you, sir.
Could you make a list of the unnecessary regulations and have it for the Tea Party so we could send it to our congressman and ask them to work on alleviating these? Can you compile a list of the regulations?
There's like 100,000. It's a huge list already.
It's a full book.
It's a big, yeah.
Oh.
It's in a book, yeah.
It's not a real easy task, and
Let's fire our government.
Frank, your question?
So I wanted to let them know if the RRP of EPA comes in your office and finds something wrong with your paperwork, what the fine is.
$37,500.
Put you out of business.
Up to $37,500 per day. You've been found out in
That's insane.
compliance.
That's insane.
Sir.
The statistic I heard in the news was that these rules and regulations add $10,000 every small business owner per year.
Say again?
The rules and regulations, federal rules and regulations add $10,000 to every small business owner, and I mean small. That's not counting people. When you get into 5 and above employees, it escalates dramatically.
You know, I have those exact same things from a person that spoke at the House Committee about the RRP thing, and I'm not a good note taker. I'm not a
Sir, go ahead. What's your question while he's looking for that?
Shawn, one, I have your reset kit for effort, but number 2, has this dramatically gotten worse in the last 2 years, or have you seen progression
yes.
over the last couple of years?
Yes. In fact, they were trying to push some more rulings to where the wipe downs and testings were not just in the general contained area, but into the adjacent rooms, which again increase our overhead, our time, our expense. Basically, what it will apply to is that the people will get a free house clean. Wow.
Yeah, next will come lab testing of the white down.
Well, yeah, that is already part of it.
Do we have any more questions?
Here.
One more question. This will be it.
I just want to make a statement. I had 2 windows replaced
about a year and a half ago, added 50% to my cost.
Yep.
Are you supposed to report the address if you do find lead? See, that comes out.
The difference between this and the abatement group is that we're to assume that it's lead. And unless we have a certified renovator or an abatement person come in and test for lead, then and if it clears that it's okay, then we don't have to apply those practices. But again, that's an extra added expense.
That's amazing. Shawn, thank you very much for coming.
First, I want to say thanks for wherever to go, Shawn back there, for taking what I was going to talk about. You know, last night I was sitting there at my desk at home and I was trying to compile it. I was thinking about it all week, but compile something and hone in, because I know everybody here probably feels like there's so many different topics we're trying to hit on as the Tea Party in general, and even as a business. I ordered, this is just general thought, I ordered this and I actually brought it for David, but it was a box of the 9/11 memorial wristbands that goes to the families and everything else from the actual memorial. The first thing I see when I open the box is made in China. Isn't that awesome? Made in China. I mean, I'm just looking at it.
Better have it lead tested.
Yeah. You know, you just look at this and you go, my God. So I want to commit to it.
Oh, thank you.
But we already know who here is a small business owner, and I hope to bring some perspective to people who aren't, so you understand how much is piled on top of the things that we're already worrying about every day as business owners. I'm a partner with two other people. We're located right downtown on Market Street, 317 Market Street. We purchase buildings downtown, in the downtown area, in other buildings all over Winnipeg County area, that basically they'd probably rather tear down. They have a lot of historic value, and then turn them into high-end lofts. One of them is right down the street, right here in Jefferson Street. And one of the things, and I think Mr. Gambino can kind of relate to this too, I wasn't surprised when the credit rating dropped, but when it happened, I was sick. A friend of mine who works downtown Chicago for Chase said, Jesus Christ. He goes, I hope you guys are ready for it. He goes, because every single bank in this country, Monday morning, will be sitting down with all their guys, the heads of commercial lending departments, and saying, not right now, not right now, nothing. And that is terrifying to somebody who, because we're also a general contracting firm. So we buy the buildings, renovate them ourselves. We're the rental management company also. So all this tightening, and every time this guy, our president, opens his mouth, okay, consumer confidence drops. Everything just goes tight. Our business, as I'm sure you can relate, if things were not the way they were, if he at least was a little more positive or took some of this regulation off, did some certain very key, easy things, you would see the market start to come back a little bit. You would see some banks starting to relax a little, you know, but instead, he keeps speaking and speaking. And every time, everybody who owns a business or runs a bank or does it is just going, Jesus Christ, please shut up, you know, and it's insane. Let's look at some of the general costs as a business owner we have. We have the property taxes on buildings. We have our annual report for our LLC, which is, it's not an annual report, it's paying the Secretary of State money to renew the LLC. Employee costs, we have unemployment insurance, which recently, we had a guy who came from down south, came up when we did a building about a year or two ago, okay? And he ran a small demolition company, independent contractor, W-9, 1099, not an employee, okay? All of a sudden, we're getting calls from the unemployment office. We don't have any employees. We have partners and we have subcontractors. And they say, well, we're requiring the W-2, but no, he doesn't have a W-2. He was an independent contractor. Oh, yeah, he was. No, he's not. So now this has turned into an audit. They don't need anything from a judge. They need nothing. They just, some nitwit down there just has to say, well, we have reason to believe that these people should have been employees. And they can come, open your books, create months of work for our secretary, okay, who, by the way, is a partner in our business also. And it's just, it's insane. And all because this individual just has it set in his mind, he's going to get unemployment. You know, it's just the cost, once again, goes right through the roof. You also have OSHA. If you look at all of the guidelines for OSHA, it's like a telephone book. It's insane. And the things, too, is that, once again, when we were doing the lofts down here a couple years back, we had one of the OSHA guys come on our site, and it was actually a day where we didn't have a lot of people working there, which, thankfully, he was trying to tell me what I was violating. And I had to explain that this is a guy, helmet with all the stickers, telling me this for a long time. He was trying to tell me how I was in violation. I had to explain to him that the OSHA standards don't apply to business owners or to the general public. They apply to workers. This is a guy that worked for OSHA. Couldn't comprehend that. Okay? And I want to go back and talk about what he was talking about a little bit. You talked about wanting to know what regulations were useless and over the top, whatever you want to call them. Here's the book. Okay? And it's changed since then, which is what he was talking about with the stack of paperwork. In that class that I took, I was sitting there. Just to give you an idea of cost, typically to refinish a hardwood floor, it'll cost you, let's say, $2 a square foot. Okay, to sand, poly, everything else. Okay. Their numbers, which I would say are low, if you're doing a big renovation, that it costs, this RRP cost, is $8 to $15 a square foot. $8 to $15 a square foot. Insane. I think most people would know that a company's profit margin probably lies somewhere between, what, 20%?
On a good day.
On a good day. So when you're talking about raising costs to 25 to 30% above and beyond what they are now, so we're going to be working for free and paying the people that we're working for. This whole concept, this is what people aren't getting. It makes I'm sorry?
Where does John go?
Yeah, you're like, this is insane. I was sitting in this class. Also remind you, the person that was teaching this lead abatement class, this RRP and lead abatement class, was one step class-wise ahead than we were. So he was a seasoned veteran and professional at this. Really brilliant guy. Okay? And here's the other thing. The contamination level for the lead, I'm trying to find out exactly what it was. It's 1 milligram per square centimeter. Okay? Does anybody know what a milligram per square centimeter looks like? What is that, a grain of salt? Seriously? Okay? Yeah, less than that. Okay? And I asked him, I said, what are the direct effects of health when it comes to, basically, how did you set that contamination standard? What is that, and how does that determine how much of a health risk? Well, we don't know. Well, how did you set the contamination level? Well, it's just to be safe. I said, but you're not understanding me. I said, if you don't know how much of something can actually make somebody sick, how do you set the contamination level? Next question. That's what he did. Okay? And they also were saying, people were saying, well, what are we supposed to do about cost? What are we supposed to do about cost? I was in a room full of guys at Benson Stone where I took the class. That was twice as many people were in this room, and they're all getting hot. And they said, well, what are you supposed to do? Just charge the people you're doing the work for. You know, and I said, what if the people you're doing the work for, or the general contractor that's doing the work, what if they own the property? What do you mean? I said, what do you mean? I said, what if you're renovating? I said, do the rules still apply? Well, of course they still. I said, then who's supposed to cover the extra expense? Next question. This is what happened the entire time. I eventually got so hot, I just stopped talking. I just shut down. You know, and to give you some ideas of what a work site would look like. Let's say you're doing an interior demolition, okay, on a building, like we do downtown here, okay? Basically, according to their standards, you are supposed to use 6 mil plastic, which if you just go to Menards and see what a cost of a roll of garbage bags of 3 mil plastic costs, check out and try and gauge how much a roll of 6 mil plastic costs. It's not cheap. They want you to cover the entire floor throughout the entire project, all of the windows, all of the doors with Z-flaps, okay? So let me ask you this. When you're producing this dust, and all the windows, all the doors, all the floors are all covered and sealed shut, how are you supposed to breathe or work in there? Respirators. And then when the lights are on, and because it's like a cave in there, and all the dust is going, how are you supposed to see 2 feet in front of you? That sounds like a real safe work site. You know, when you have wheelbarrows, how are you supposed to move it out? Because you have a Z-flap in the door. They also said, oh, well, you have to have the locking lid dumpsters. Okay? All the people that work there have to have the contamination suit with the tape wrist. Every bag that leaves that site, you can't just dump loads or anything else or throw pieces into a dumpster. All has to be in a 6 mil plastic bag, goosenecked and taped shut. This is how insane, and this is just one part of this, okay? I want to read you guys something real quick. I was digging through, and I know I have way too much of the time allotted. July employment report, Illinois leads the nation in job loss. Is a tax hike costing Illinois economic recovery? We have last week's Bureau of Labor Statistics delivered the 3 pieces of bad news to Illinois. Number of Illinoisans employed continues to fall. Illinois lost more jobs during the month of July than any other state in the nation. After losing 7,200 jobs in June, Illinois lost an additional 24,900 non-farm payroll jobs. Okay? Illinois unemployment rate rose to 9.5%. Does anybody know what it is now? 9.9% in 1 month. 1 month. Okay? They also have, which is great of them. I have some other stuff here too. On Illinois, the state of Illinois' website, they're nice enough to have a small business advisor page for you. For anybody that wants to start a small business, I'm sure the first place you would go would be the state of Illinois' website. Right? Makes a lot of sense. On here, these are all the different departments that you're supposed to talk to if you're starting a small business. Okay? There is also law enforcement regulations, the different sectors. These are all the different sectors, just in the state of Illinois, that you're supposed to be in line with and be talking to. Okay? State labor divisions. Okay, here you go. State labor divisions. These are all the different offices in the state of Illinois. Okay? You also have all the different departments as far as delegate agencies and activities, training course approvals, responsibilities for licensed individuals, standards for conducting environmental investigations, standards for lead mitigation, fines, penalties. Here's another one. So the days of, people wonder why jobs are going, people wonder why the state of Illinois is the problem it's in. The day of somebody, and the American entrepreneur, the people who just have these fantastic ideas of how they're going to start a small business, how they're going to do this, how they're going to do that, it's gone. It's gone for right now. Because unless you have some huge financial backing and have a team of individuals to somehow help you wrap your mind around and just your day-to-day operations, just to fall in line, not even to conduct business, but just to fall in line with what the state wants you to do, maybe you'll get it done. And the thing that I want anybody that's here that's going to be an elected official, wants to be an elected official, is an elected official, that we have to constantly think about. Gary knows exactly what I'm talking about. Gary and I have been fighting with the village board in Rockford for the crap they're pulling on him up there. Okay? Because none of them are thinking about this. Whether it's local government, whether it's state, whether it's federal, okay? Every rule, every law, everything they're putting in place, even when they tell you you can't drill a well because we might put one there, okay? Because they want your land so badly for God knows what reason, okay? All you are doing is putting another wall up, another barrier for the government, for small business owners to be successful. Every regulation, everything that they do, it's one more shovel load of crap on us that we have to deal with that is counterproductive and keeps us from keeping the little money that we have.
Zack, are you saying that with this water
Can I touch on that real quick? Dave, can I touch on that subject real quick? I'll just go, she's not listening. Okay. Briefly, just so everybody knows what's going on with Gary Sands, because David touched on it the other day.
Gary's right here.
Gary's
Hi,
right
Gary.
there, okay?
Good to see you, buddy.
It started out, and the cat's out of the bag now. Everybody knows it was me that started the whole storm up there. We were told by the mayor of Rockton that there was a parcel of land adjacent to the Rockton Athletic Fields that the owner was really, he was just unhappy with his purchase. He just wants to get rid of it. So I found him another piece of land over here. We're going to make this deal happen. I said, why are we brokering deals for private business? Well, shut up. So a group of people that I know who supported me, mind you, I've been in the board 1 month. Okay, there are people who've been on there for years. The mayor's been in office for years. Come to me. I've been on there a month, and I'm the only person in the village to trust. Terrifying. Okay? And tell me, do you know Gary Sands? I said, I know of him because he wants to sell this property. They said, you have to help him. He is ready to jump out of his skin. He doesn't know what to do. The mayor has told him, we will not give you the zoning to do what you want to grow your trees here. We will not do this. We will not do that. Just basically sell the property to us. We were told that he wasn't happy with the purchase in several open meetings. And then every time we start talking about it, the village attorney said, oh, we can't talk about it because, there's people here from the public. Okay? Long story short, it was meeting upon meeting upon meeting upon meeting, and it turned into a huge situation. I know Brian was there, there's other people there too, from the Tea Party. And basically, after getting a violation notice for him having weeds that were too high on the property, once there was too much attention drawn to the situation, they just started hammering with little crap here and there to be like, yeah, you think you got us, So we took pictures all over town of other properties that had high weeds and brought them to the meeting. So this has been a non-stop thing. All the while, once again, there's all this going on. You have somebody who wants the land for this reason, that, let's get back to the basic here, the basic point. Small business owner trying to bring a business from one community to another, to a bigger part, to a piece of property, to expand his business, to contribute in the form of sales tax, to do all these things. And all they've done is impede his progress. Exactly what I'm talking about. It's just, and I could go on forever, and that's why I'm going to stop, but I hope you guys just understand really the level,
Does anybody have any questions you would like to ask?
I have a comment. This is why government is so big. They have to hire all these people to validate and oversee these horrendous restrictions and regulations. And we've got to either march on Washington, we've either got to take our country back or leave. That's how I see it.
Sir.
This kind of stuff is not going on just in Rockford. It's going on in those parks, going on in Rockford. It's all over. These people are of the mindset that it's not in our land, it's theirs.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Go ahead, sir.
Getting back to the contractor and the unemployment issue, did someone open an unemployment or try to file an unemployment claim? That's why they do it.
You know how it actually started, which is funny real quick? This just shows you how all they need is your name once, and they're just going to open you up, just like an audit with the IRS. Okay, forever. They got their claws on you. The guy actually went there trying to get unemployment on another employer, and they said, well, you need to list a couple other people that, that show that you've been trying to work. That's a load of crap. The reason why they want you to list other people is they can go pounding on their doors, too, and open their books up.
Lions.
What this really tells us all, that the Tea Party has a hell of a job to get going now and get new people in Congress and the Senate. We've got to work hard to get everybody changed in there so that this crap won't keep going.
Yep.
But it indicates everybody here better get busy.
Yep. Tracy?
I just wanted to, is it safe to say that you feel the boot of on your neck of the government?
I'll give you one more real quick, okay? We're, and it's out in the open now, so I'm just going to put it out there. We're purchasing, where are we? All of Dr. Gupta's buildings. I have my contract downtown, okay? As you know, he was already had some issues with insider trading. So initially, all the money from the sales and negotiate with the IRS was to go to the IRS, blah, 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 blah. Then he flees the country, and they found out he is basically being charged, I guess would be the phrase, the terminology we use, with, was it $35 million in private Medicare and Medicaid fraud? And then they also found out that later on that he sold his private practice right before he jumped ship for a dime on the dollar, basically. Okay. Meanwhile, we have had a contract. We still have a legal contract for all of these properties, but we were supposed to start construction on these buildings, the whole run of buildings down the downtown, June 1st. What's the date now? You know why? We're still waiting with our 8 attorneys we have involved now for the IRS to get back to us.
Hey everybody, thanks for getting up and coming out. It's always great to see people come out, like-minded Americans come out. We all believe red and all Americans, we want our country back. So, I'll only take a couple minutes, so and I thank you again for the time. What we got going on, we're a newly formed Tea Party down in DeKalb County. I live in DeKalb County, so it's DeKalb County Tea Party. And although a lot of you have seen my face around here for almost 2 years now, close to it, you know, I'm still a big part of this because this is where I got my start. You know, David was a big influence and helped inspire me, and as well as others that I've met with. So there became a meeting myself with Dan McIntyre, who is out of town today. He's afraid to get up in front of people and talk, so he conveniently had to leave town. So, but that's okay. I got lungs. So we got together now. We've been having meetings. We have something a little more informal. Most of the time we have Saturday meetings that are typically the last Saturday of the month. In the morning, 8 o'clock at a restaurant in Genoa. So if a lot of you know where Genoa's at, come on down. Sit around, have a cup of coffee, have breakfast, whatever you want, you know. So we're actually going to be moving to a bigger place because I think we're about to outgrow this one. Good. So, which is a good problem.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we're getting a little louder and louder as more and more of us start to come out. In the past 30 days, we've had over 300 hits to our website. So things are definitely growing. Part of what's going on this coming Saturday, the 24th, last Saturday month, 8 a.m. Again, it's the Spring Grove Family Restaurant. It's in Genoa. If you go into Genoa, by Genoa Road, which a lot of you guys will from up here, as soon as you get to the main drag, Highway 72, hang a hard right, and it's there on your left, just down a little ways. If you come in via 72 from the west, it's just right as you come into Genoa. So pretty easy place to find. We're going to have an introduction by Leandro Alano. I can't even say his name right. I met him once. Aliano, thank you. He is a Republican candidate. Part of the district he's running for is about 2/3 of the southern half of DeKalb County. He's going to be there, short introduction, tell the group about himself. But how many's heard about Dan Proft? Well, I don't know how. It's a blessing. Dan Proft reached out to us and said he wanted to come talk to our group.